Hi everyone. Thank you all for joining us this morning. It's a lot warmer than I planned, but hopefully you're all enjoying a bit of sunshine. My name's Libby, and I'll come back in a few moments, but I'd love to hand over to the wonderful Nidala. So Nidala will be doing an acknowledgement of country this morning. She grows at home. She's a singer-songwriter and has also a master in sustainability to boot, so I can't really think of a better person to welcome us to the space.
Thanks, Libby.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Good morning, everybody. My acknowledgements to country are a little bit different to how you'd normally see and feel them. And I'd love for this to be quite interactive. I think we've really slid over time from this really genuine attempt at acknowledging who was here into kind of a box that we need to tick. And I think that's a real shame, because we're talking about something that's beyond Indigenous custodianship. We're talking about humans who've lived and protected and maintained these lands since time immemorial. And what I see a lot in our culture today is this kind of guilt from, you know, an ancestry and a history that can be quite dark, which blocks us from our connection to country. And I think that's really sad. And that's a real shame. I'd like you all to close your eyes for a second. And I'm going to ask you a question. And if the answer to the question is yes, I want you to raise your hand. If the answer is no, keep your hand down low. There's no buts and ifs, just the first answer that comes into your mind. Do you feel that you can speak and act as custodians of this land? Beautiful. You can put your hands down. My name is Nidala. I am from the Jugun people of the Kimberley. I have had ancestry shared with this land since time immemorial. Do you think I can speak as custodian of the land? Raise your hand if yes. Can you raise your hand if you've lived here for more than 3 years in this area? Open your eyes up. The odd part is, I'm an immigrant to this side of the country. Right? Australia has more than 250 different language groups, 250 different people. I am about as similar to the Aboriginal people here as the Turkish are to the Scottish. Yet all of you think I can speak as custodians, but the vast majority of you who have lived here longer than I have don't think that you can speak as custodians. Can you see the dissonance there? What does custodianship mean? Custodianship means to protect, maintain, and take care of something. Every time that you walk on this land, you are breathing in the cells and the oxygen that the land is giving you. Every time that you walk on this land, you are getting rid of your skin cells, of your hair, you're breathing out and giving to country. You are inherently tied to the country in which you are living, regardless of your ancestry. There's a lot of beauty in the feeling of belonging, but there's also a lot of responsibility there. And so what I'd like to invite you to do today and moving forward is to step boldly into that sense of belonging and realize that this land is so generous to you. Today it's giving us sun, it's giving us air, it's going to give us the food that we're eating, the water that we're drinking. You owe this land everything. And you don't get to tap out because you're feeling uncomfortable, because of the history. It is your duty and my duty to move beyond this, to acknowledge the history that has been, stop it with us, and do something better. And I know this is a heavy item to hold, but we actually don't have a choice. And the land doesn't hear, oh, maybe if, I don't know, because my grandfather immigrated from Scotland and my grandmother did this. It just hears a resounding, yes, I will speak for you, or no. And so I invite you into the yes, I will speak for you. Ella does this so beautifully with this land in which we're present today. She said, yes, I'll speak for you. Yes, I'll grow with you. Yes, I'll dress you with beautiful plants and play with your soil and make sure all the worms are happy. Whatever that yes is for you, embody that. If it's making cool bowls, do that. If it's living in your bus, do that. If it's creating murals, do that. But do what you're doing fully as an acknowledgement of all the people who have done that before you. You are the ancestors of the generations to come. Make sure that they can be proud of you. And I'd like to kind of finish my little acknowledgement with a song that I wrote actually last night about this exact idea of stepping into discomfort boldly and of trying something new and of not always getting it right, but that not being an excuse for not doing it. I'm sure we've all made a lot of mistakes in our lives, but we're still here, still breathing, we're still walking. And the reason I use music as a tool to do this is I think so much of our problems in communication come from the words that we use. We have, over the time of history itself, had so many languages, so many ways of speaking to each other, but music, that predates it all. And so I'd like you to delve into this as a shared experience, that you're all hearing the same things, you're all witnessing the same sounds, you're all feeling the same breeze and sunshine. This song doesn't have a name yet, so if you think of one, let me know. Take me down a road I've never been, to see things I've never seen. This time I'll take the passenger side, and where we go, you decide. I've packed my bags and I am ready, but in unfamiliar ground I can promise I'll stay steady, but trust in the trees and the birds and the bees, or trust in the things you know are true. You may not always be on track, but oh, don't let that keep you back instead. Step boldly ahead. Oh, you might be afraid, that's okay. These roads, they wind, they crack and they bend, and I know that makes you dizzy, my friend. And I know that it's hard, and I know you've never ever played this part. Yes, I know that sometimes it's just a little bit too much, but trust in the trees and the birds and the bees, or trust in the things that have always been true. You won't always be on track, but don't let that hold you back. no instead. Step boldly in. Oh, and you might be afraid. That's okay, you know. It might help you to remember the oldest of truths, that there's not a single living soul who has a single clue. We're all walking blindly, we're all hoping blindly to find the answers, but really, we're just trusting in all the tiny dancers, but trust in the trees, the birds and the bees, and trust in the things that have always been true. We won't always be on track, but we won't let that hold us back, no, instead. We'll step boldly in. Oh, and we might be afraid, and that's okay. We'll step boldly ahead. Oh, I promise I'll hold your hand. Thank you very much. And that's me done. Thank you so much. I want to finish by acknowledging each and every one of you here for your presence and your mind and your ears and your eyes and your feet that are about to pat the ground and give it a little massage as we walk around. And I'll hand it back over to Libby.
That was so beautiful. Oh my God, my heart. So, welcome again, everyone. There is a seat at there's one person, so there's a seat at the front if you like. So, happy Sunday, guys. I guess this is like this is like a dream come true for Ella and I to share this space with Nidala and hear about the traditional people of this land and to be a part of that story of custodianship being permeated throughout our culture. So today we're talking about healthy communities. And my background is in medicine, so I still work as a doctor now, and I guess the irony of working as a doctor does not necessarily mean you spend much time doing anything to do with health. You spend a lot of time doing a lot of things to do with disease, and I guess kind of patching people up when they're at the end of the health spectrum that's gone pretty wrong. And so my passion and my hope for today is that we can talk about and share about all the things that make a community healthy. So connectedness, as Nidala beautifully was talking, purpose-driven living, whether that's the purpose to love your family really well, whether it's a purpose to build an incredible business, whether it's creative or artistic. I think that living a purpose-filled life, which comes from slowing down, connecting, thinking about what we love and what we value, I think that is one of the cornerstones of a healthy community. So I'm really excited to welcome some amazing guest panelists today that are from all different backgrounds, and I think the more backgrounds the better, the more ways people are living out purpose, living out passion. That's, I think, what a thriving, beautiful community looks like. And I guess another interesting thing that I hope you take away from today, so Ella will come up in a moment and have a little chat and do a farm tour. But, I mean, being connected to the land, I'm a massive nerd, I'm just going to put it out there. I love statistics, I love science, I also love like running around taking pictures of flowers, but like numbers speak to me. They're boring to other people, but it's really incredible when you start to look into the research around the implications of being in nature. And we know that from a neurological perspective that just even looking at the ocean or looking at mountains gives us a serotonin release, which is our happy hormone. They've done research to show that when we harvest something, we get a dopamine hit, which makes sense, right? Because if we needed to survive before there was supermarkets lined with packaged things, you know, you probably should feel good that you could feed yourself. That was like a survival instinct to be able to tend to yourself and tend to the land. And they've even shown that gardening helps with like neuroprotective growth factors that helps your memory last. And we know from the blue zones, the regions in the world where people live the longest, they spend time in nature and they spend time living purpose-driven. So, I'm going to stop talking about nerdy science stuff. But I hope today that whatever, like wherever you're from, whether you live on a balcony and you've got like this much square space on to look at a view, or you have a big property, or you grow all the time, or you've never grown food in your life, I hope today you feel inspired. I hope you feel encouraged, because we can all make a small change towards growing our own food, whether it's like a sprig of rosemary. The smell of that sprig of rosemary, I guarantee you, will be the best smelling produce in your house. So we hope that you feel welcome, ask questions, and we want to inspire you today in all the ways about living a healthy life, I guess. So I'll ask Ella to come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidala. That was just so beautiful. And thanks, Lib. Well, welcome to Ella's Farm. I'm really pleased to see you all here because there's such an interest and a movement towards living sustainably and growing your own food. And I'm going to talk about food systems for a little bit. We're running a tad behind time, so I think we will be going. So just very quickly, the current food systems are fairly diabolical to the earth as well as to ourselves because it's a monoculture, wheat. They spray glyphosate before they plant it. The machine has the glyphosate going on the ground and the seeds are right behind it. It's covered in it. When they harvest it, they do exactly the same thing. They spray glyphosate and then harvest it. So it is no wonder that we're gluten intolerant. I think it's probably we are allergic to glyphosate. And so what we're doing here is a semi-permaculture, semi-holistic management, semi-syntropic. I just call it regenerative farming. And our aim is to produce nutrient-dense food and to help other people do the same thing. So I'd invite you to come with me on the farm tour, and we're just going to look at a balcony setup, a backyard setup, and then a farm setup. And anything that inspires you, I will be very grateful. I think belonging to the country gives you such satisfaction. I belong here. And I know now why my mother at the age of 92 died in the garden, happy in the garden. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we can pass on to all of to everybody. So let's go for a quick farm tour.
I hope you guys enjoyed the farm tour, which was a bit of a whirlwind. But we'll, after brunch, if you want to take more of a wander, that's more than fine. And just, you can grab Ella or I and we'll show you around if you like. So this morning we're really delighted to have some amazing guests here. first up we'd like to introduce Jake Mckeon. So Jake is the owner, CEO of Coconut Bowls, which I don't know if you know the story, but it's a pretty incredible story of being inspired by being on the street, just doing your normal life, and then I guess an adventure opened up from there. And Jake has a really beautiful business that's not just about, I guess, coconut bowls. There's much more to their story than that, and we're really delighted to hear about how that all works and pick his brain, and then we'll have a panel after that with a couple of other guests. So without further ado, Jake, to you.
Thanks, Libby. I might sit if that's okay. But yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jake. I'm the founder of Coconut Bowls, and I feel really privileged to be here today. I think what Libby and Alla are doing with the Sustainable Table is amazing, and it's just one of the privileges of being in this region. And Nidala did a fantastic acknowledgement of country, and until I moved up to Byron Bay a couple of years ago, I'd actually never witnessed that. So it's really, really special to have that kind of community here with like-minded people who all care about having a kind of more positive impact on the planet. And when I hadn't heard that before, but when Nidala said that we will one day be ancestors, and my wife and I are about to welcome a baby into the world, and I think there's no better way to kind of, you know, show that you're caring for the future of everyone than to start making positive changes now. So it's great to be here, and yeah, I'd just kind of like to share a bit of our story and how we got to where we are today. So 5 years ago, I was returning from a 6-month trip around the world, and the final stop was Bali, and just minding my own business, walking through the streets, and like Libby said, I stumbled across these coconut shell handicrafts, and basically this craftsman was sanding them and polishing them and painting them and selling them to tourists as souvenirs. And at the time I was 2 to 3 years into my entrepreneurial career. I wasn't very good at it because I had a couple of failed businesses at that stage, or businesses that kind of failed to take off. But one of them was a superfood brand, and we're kind of selling these superfood powders to cafes and customers. And when I saw these shells, I was like, wow, they're just like naturally shaped like a bowl. I think people will like eating out of something from nature, and if it can replace the plastic, then that's a win-win. So there I was, I got 100 made, brought them back to Australia and started giving them to my customers as a gift with purchase. And the next 2 or 3 months I was flying back and forth to Bali and kind of smuggling back coconut shells. And I even managed to kind of say to some friends, oh, I'll pay for your trip to Bali as long as you agree to smuggle coconuts back with me. And I was just in there thinking, like, how good is this business? Like, this is so much better than what else I was doing. But it got to the point where people wanted these coconut bowls more than the superfood products, and which I'd been kind of pushing for a couple of years. So I thought, well, maybe there's a real business in here, and I took the plunge and ordered 5,000 to come by sea. So when they were en route, I started talking to cafes and retail stores and managed to sell about 500 before the container arrived. But unfortunately, when I was unpacking them, I had just been delivered these raw coconut shells. So they hadn't been sanded or polished, and as the entrepreneur that I was, I went to Bunnings and got some sandpaper and a sanding machine, and there I was in my apartment sanding the bowls and washing them in the bath and then delivered them to the customers. So, but it was actually the best thing that ever happened, because for the first time I kind of realized what an amazing product it was. And to this day, it's the best example of a renewable and circular product where it comes from a tree. It's actually the waste material, provides work for people, and then provides a practical purpose in almost any human's life every day. And you can use it hundreds, if not thousands of times, and then give it back to nature at the end, no harm done. So that was really the start of the sustainable side of the business. And obviously my barley supplier didn't turn out too good, so I started to research the coconut industry, and I was amazed that, you know, billions of coconuts are harvested every year, and 99% of their shells go to waste. So it was crazy that, you know, here was this bowl that people were liking and hadn't really experienced before, and there was literally enough of them to be able to have one for almost every human in the world. So I researched in Vietnam. It seemed like a really great place to do business, and I was lucky enough to find an artisan craft workshop who could make the bowls for us. And this is where the kind of social element of the business came in, because when I started talking to them, they had some family that were in the coconut industry, and they told me how poor the coconut farmers were, and if we could pay for their waste materials, it would be able to kind of provide an additional income for them. So that was fantastic. And at the time, we were looking to expand the brand, and you know, starting to look at wood to make spoons and forks, and they were like, well, let's get the waste wood from furniture makers of their offcuts, and that was just another sustainable step. And the third thing, which is really amazing, is they didn't want me to just be this Western businessman who would come in and order, you know, 50,000 coconut bowls, and once a year where they'd have to employ, you know, 30, 40 people for a couple of months. They wanted smaller, consistent orders so that the artisans could have, you know, faith in ongoing work. And yeah, so that was all in the first year, and fast forward 5 years, I've got no doubt that the success that we've experienced so far to do with our, you know, doing business the right way and having a social and environmentally responsible business model. And part of being a sustainable business, it's not about being perfect, and it's always about progress. And that first year, we shipped every single bowl in padded plastic bubble wrap, and it wasn't until the end of the second year that we got rid of all the foam from the shipments, and we didn't donate any money to the third year. We didn't commit to 1% for the planet and become carbon neutral to year 4. And only this year we started our artisan education fund, where we pay for our artisans' kids' schooling for the year. And we've only now, a couple of months ago, submitted our B Corp application. So our customers have been on this journey with us, and they've really driven the purpose and the mission, just like we have tried to play a positive part of their daily lives. And you know, 2 years in, only 1% of people might have said, hey, this plastic packaging's not good enough. But if we were to do that now, we'd be teared to shreds. And it just shows how far we've been able to take our community on this journey with us. And I think society as well are really starting to, you know, not put up with unsustainable ways of doing business. And one thing we've really tried to do is make coconut bowls feel like a purchase to be proud of, and, you know, something that's fun. And the coconut bowl itself is fantastic, but it's really about our mission, and that's to help make healthy eating and sustainable living fun, easy and accessible for everyone, no matter where they are. And the coconut bowl provides a fantastic opportunity to start your day with a healthy choice, and it's a natural product that's really easy to identify that it's sustainable, and it's also a conversation starter. So once you begin eating out of the coconut bowl, you can have that conversation with friends and family, and just start to make small positive changes in your daily life. And it's amazing when, you know, people like us here, we come together, have these conversations. The same things happened on social media. You know, small changes can have a significant impact down the track. And, you know, when people buy a coconut bowl, they're also part of helping us take plastic out of the ocean and reforest lands lost to deforestation. But we're not talking about how we're trying to solve the plastic waste issue in the ocean. It's all about leading by example and cleaning beaches so that we can draw attention to the kind of products that are finding their way to beaches and into the ocean, like, you know, plastic straws, cups, drink bottles, so that next time somebody thinks twice about getting that and maybe moves towards a more sustainable solution. And the same applies to planting trees. And what Ella said before, it's, you know, it's moisture is so evident when you're standing out in the open. It's so much hotter than when you're underneath trees. And the act of planting a tree isn't as if we're going to reforest the world as much as we would love to, but it's about, nature already has the solution to combat climate change. It's the best technology out there, and it's just drawing attention to these things so that everyday people can start to learn and be educated. So I would love to say that I had all these big plans initially at day one, but I didn't, and part of this journey has really helped shape my beliefs in business. And I think one thing that I'm really trying to push is that, the old masculine mentality of let's feed one man's pockets at the expense of everyone else, it's not the way forward. It's about doing business where everyone wins, your suppliers, your customers, your employees, and the environment. And I think that's, the way forward. And the younger generation and people like you here today, we don't want just products anymore. We want to support brands that are a reflection of us. And I'm really confident that in a few years that, those old businesses that just exist to make money will start to drift away. And yeah.
Thank you, Jake. I just want to ask you, just because we'll grab the other panelists. Yeah, something that really stuck with me when we first met was you were talking about how you really believe that sustainability will become a very sort of niche expectation, but currently it's niche, but will become a broad expectation, I should say, and that it's going to be affiliated with, I guess, a sense of affluence, or at least a sense of being a premier brand, which I think, when I think about big brands at the moment, there's definitely people pushing the sustainability voice, but there's also huge brands that really it's not a big deal for them. So I guess I'm curious to hear how you think that change will come about, and what you see kind of happening in your customer base and your community in that direction.
So I think that we're almost seeing it in some areas right now with coffee cups that, I come from a position where you never want to make people feel bad. It's more about empowering them and making them feel good about what they are doing. I guess looking at big businesses, everyone is trying to greenwash in some way, shape or form now. And, I think traditionally we used to really get frustrated about that as sustainable businesses, but the fact is people know how important it is to consumers that you are doing something positive for the environment. And brands like Coca-Cola will put millions of dollars into a campaign about how great it is that they're recycling their bottles now, or McDonald's are using paper straws in their cups. But I truly think it comes from education and empowerment, and it's like an addiction. Once you start making positive changes, you're kind of looking at the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And there's going to be a point of time sooner or later where those greenwashing techniques and doing one thing but not doing the other just isn't going to work anymore. And I think, my team went to the climate rally during the week, and the kids in school now, they demand better from the brands that they purchase from. And like I said, to kind of finish, people don't just want products, and maybe they do right now, but I think the Patagonia is a perfect example. Is people wear Patagonia because it tells others about who they are as a person, not necessarily because it looks the best or it's the best quality. It's because you're showing people the kind of person you are through what you wear or what you use. So
brand, affiliation, I guess.
So I think that's the path, whether or not it's where we're going to go naturally, but that's certainly the way that I'm going to try and guide it with what I can do. So
I do want to ask one more question, and I'll grab the other panelists up. I know that I've heard you talk a little bit about that sort of journey of, year one, you had certain practices in place and then they changed, and that business or life in general, which I think is kind of relating to today, is very much the purpose of life is not just to make a bunch of money, right? That you what is success, and defining success really in a way that's fulfilling. And I think I can speak to this from my experience as a doctor. There's a lot of expectation around performing certain roles, but that doesn't necessarily bring you that satisfaction if it's not aligned with your purpose. So I guess for people out there who are, I mean, whether it's a business or it's just your personal life, what sort of tips do you give to people about kind of finding that sweet spot for you that's not about these like conventional models of success?
I gave a talk a couple of years ago, 10 years after I finished uni, and to the same people who finished their degree that I did. And you know, when I was starting my entrepreneurial career, I would go to those events where everyone would be saying about how I want to take over the world and become a millionaire and all this stuff. So I think you naturally think that that's what you want. But it's not until you mature and you start to actually spend time doing what you love, you start to realize, you know, what your passion and trying to drive purpose, because you know, life is short and you want to spend that time doing things that are actually important to you, not to society's expectations of you. Or and I think living a life in alignment and you know, kind of work-life integration, and that's the most amazing thing about this region is I think most people come here to live the life that they want to live. So I think it's truly just knowing what you want to do and then trying to find your path down that track, and I think that's going to provide more happiness than trying to do and follow what society wants.
Yeah, conventional models. Mm-hmm. Well, I might ask Marissa and Sarah if they want to join us, and so Tan, do you want to jump on that? Or
yeah.
Do you want to jump on the end?
I'll jump on.
Drink you out of the spot.
You guys hang out all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to introduce a couple more guests that we have. So Sarah and Marissa run the Village Markets, which was the first sort of creative market on the Gold Coast, very pioneering. I mean, the Gold Coast is a great place, but it didn't have a whole lot of culture. What year did you start?
2008.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a cultural wasteland then, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're both from the Gold Coast, so yeah, we just felt that it was really lacking in culture and events.
That sort of like celebration of creativity rather than going just to a nightclub or the gym.
And community. Yeah.
So and obviously Montana as well is here with us today, and she'll be running the workshop and runs and coordinates Murals for Change, and is an environmental engineer as well. So I'd love to start with, though, if you guys can tell us a little bit about the Village Markets and what your kind of role, or how you see yourselves lifting up the like creative young businesses, and I'm not sure who wants to.
Well, I think, basically Sarah and I met at work, and a main reason for starting the Village Markets was because we saw so many people, it's almost 13 years ago now, were moving away from the coast to bigger cities for opportunities, and there just really wasn't any creative platform to bring these people together, and so that they could launch their brands and showcase their products. And so we just really felt the need to provide a platform for these people so that we could keep them on the Gold Coast and really showcase what we had to offer. And I think there was that real stigma at the time, the Gold Coast, you go to Surfers Paradise, the theme parks, and there's meter maids, and we were quite passionate about, no, it's not like that, you know, there's so much more to it. And so that was a really big reason for starting the business at the time, and really fostering that community from there.
I think the coast just, we found, lacked that sort of event that people could go to that, didn't involve drinking or partying, and it was family friendly and had live music, and, was really about bringing people together. And that sense of being a part of something.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
And how did you, I'm so curious, whenever I see like friends that are business partners, I'm like, when did you decide? When we were like, yes, we will be business partners? Was it like...
We actually got made redundant from our jobs. So that's how, so we were working, and then the GFC hit and we lost our jobs. So we were sort of a few years out of uni, and had a bit of time off work in between jobs because there wasn't much work around at the time, and that's kind of when the idea sort of formed.
That space.
We used to always talk about, my sister was living in Sydney, so I was always down at markets there, and Sarah was really into vintage at the time, and we were just really like, there's nothing here for us to go to. And so, yeah, we just really had an idea and met for like a coffee one day and thought, why don't we just start something and just see how it goes? And then we both got full-time jobs and just did it as a hobby for a few years. So working full-time, doing the markets on the weekend and at night. And yeah.
Wow.
So our friendship has grown a lot since then because we met at work, but then obviously started a business, and then now we've become really great friends through it as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. My sister started her business during the global financial crisis, and I imagine that like COVID has been like a pause moment for a lot of people, and I was working heaps in the hospital, and COVID really, I was coming to the farm and really enjoying this space, but it really was like that. I think sometimes those spaces in those gaps in normality is when like the best ideas brew and you kind of can reconnect and go in a new direction. I don't know if has everyone else kind of experienced that through COVID. I feel like it was a real like awakening time for everyone. And I know that it's like, so I guess similar to Jake's story, you guys have had like these progressive environmental goals. So was it plastic, no single-use plastics?
We started, when would that have been, like a few years into the business, we started saying, no, because people would turn up with a plastic bag and buy things and put it in a plastic bag. And so we just started,
plastic water bottles,
introducing slowly, baby steps, as Jake was saying, like a certain year we would say no plastic, and now we're working towards zero waste to try and become a zero waste event. So we're
can you tell us
making steps.
How do you do that? Like, it's easier at a farm where we have control over everything, but when you have thousands of people coming to visit you, that's just wild. I can't imagine being zero waste.
We're working towards it. So we work with Climate Wave at the event. So they come to each event, and we have bins dedicated on site, and they actually stand there throughout the day and sort through the waste throughout the event. So there's landfill, there's cans and bottles for recycling, and then there's the organic waste, which gets biodegradable. So then at the end of the day, the bottles are donated to Surfrider Foundation, and then the compost goes to the Southern Beaches Community Garden in Tugun. Used to go to the school because they have a garden there. The school where we run the event.
Big change for us has been though educating our communities. So our food vendors would all have, say, plastic servingware, or they thought they had compostable cups, but they might not have been. So there was a lot of that greenwashing around the servingware as well. So educating them, because the majority of the waste is from the event is from food consumption. So all our suppliers now have to have, all our vendors have to have approved biodegradable, compostable servingware, and then that just essentially is taken to the gardens and used as mulch and.
And it is just educating, because each event, I think when it first started with Climate Wave and we had the signs on each bin, people would walk over and they were really quite nervous. Like, I still do it, I have to stop and like, okay, this goes in this one. So I think it was really just that education ongoing, and then we do some things on our social media. So now when people turn up, they're all just on board a lot more, and people are happy to do it because they're not so scared, or they feel like they don't know what they're doing. Like, I think people are just so much more
it is such a cultural thing, and it is like using your voice to chat about the different ways that people can just become aware, not necessarily overnight like change their entire lifestyle, but it is a cultural thing. Like in Japan, that's sorting your garbage is normal. Like that's just just all there with it. So if you've been to, it's very overwhelming. Like when you go to Japan and you're like they grow up doing that. Whereas here, I guess we don't have that innate learning that you're giving to your customers, which is super cool, because
we're trying.
It's a process, I guess, of changing norms in society. And Montana, I would love, I guess, is a good segue, I guess, to your work, because so Montana has done a few different things, but I know one of your roles was with Outland Denim, walking through their kind of process of creating sustainable denim, which is a difficult task. Yeah, and I'd love to hear a bit, I guess, about we've got a
look at a spider.
I'm like with all the bugs today. It's great. I slept in there last night. No bugs in there, unfortunately. But
We should have put some bugs in there for you. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I guess when I met the guys at Outland, I was modelling at the time and I was shooting their campaign.
Yeah.
And while I'm getting my makeup done, full chatterbox, and I'm like talking to the founder, James, about what they do and learning the story behind Outland, I was like, you know, this was maybe 5 or 7 years ago. Like, it was a long time ago for the fashion industry, and seeing how far the fashion industry has come now. Back then, it was like, wow, you're actually thinking about who makes your clothes?
Yeah.
So I was in my final year of engineering, a double major in civil and environmental, and we just came to realize that we wanted the same thing. Like, I was modeling and seeing so much waste and all these different backgrounds of how designers were bringing their clothes to and designs to fruition. And then I was working in designing industrial solutions for making this possible, and so it was just this really beautiful synergy. So I actually did my humanitarian engineering design course in Cambodia.
Wow.
And then that was just before I met James, and then they were saying, okay, we work in Cambodia, we're doing this with the women there. Women's rights has been very important for me, being a woman and the experiences that I've had growing up, and so I wanted to help them find a solution. So it was my first like proper job out of uni. I'd been working in environmental design firms, designing vertical gardens, doing all of that. Yeah, so really frothing on everything you guys are creating here. Can't wait to do it for, you know, some land that we're custodians of one day soon. But yeah, so with them, I was looking at everything from the design place, where the girls were sewing, and, you know, micro details of where is the thread going afterwards, but what are the girls eating for lunch, and where is that coming from, how close by are they working.
Wow.
To with the designs, like I'm wearing a lighter acid wash, like a lighter colour denim, to yours, and this is more like a true colour denim, but a lot of bleach goes into making things lighter, and so we're working with natural bleaches, talking about mushrooms, eating the leftover waste of the denim.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, trying to get a whole bunch of things in place, and then sadly I had to leave halfway through the project, but they've got an amazing washing facility now that not only creates a sustainable product, because in denim there's a lot of pollution in the indigo, so using a plant-based indigo, so many things that go into it. So not only the product is sustainable, but it's integrated with how people are making them and thinking about the people who are making them. And thinking about the people who are wearing them. It's like, human integrated design.
Yeah.
I love that.
So similar, I guess, with the coconut bowl story of trying to like consider every part of a product, from the families of the people who make it. Which is,
and I guess my introduction to that realm was really inspiring, because I hadn't really thought about owning a business myself one day or anything at that stage. I was like 22 or 21. But it was about creating something with humans as the focus and the environment as the focus. It's like, how are we going to help? And then creating everything outwards from there. Yeah. Which is a whole different approach, and it largely inspired me for Murals for Change and for our ethical skincare bloom. It's like starting with the problem first and coming up with businesses to help it.
I know some people might know about Murals for Change, but it'd be lovely for you to share, I guess, some of the community work that you do and your inspiration. I know it's like from quite a story of your own, but I guess for people who don't know what Murals for Change is doing in communities, because it's pretty cool.
So Murals for Change, I guess I became pregnant with that at the same time as my baby girl Blue, who's out in the rock pools today. But it's about using art to raise awareness for activist causes and using it as a platform platform for hopeful conversation and hopeful activism. And that was a really important thing for me, because I think as an activist, and we're all activists in our own ways, at the end of the day you can kind of feel a little bit deflated, or like, does anybody else care like I care? Because I really care, and I'm feeling kind of alone right now, and is this ever going to make a difference?
Yeah.
And so art just presented itself as a way for me to therapeutically go through my feelings and express what I'm feeling, and then to say a message.
Yeah.
And it's through that we do large-scale murals and bring communities together and do it like a colour by numbers approach. So the team will come in as volunteers, and the whole thing's provided for free for the community. So equality and equity is very important for us. We don't want that to be in the way. And then we welcome people from all ages, from babies to, we had a Fishy 86 at our last workshop in this rural town, Oakdale. Okay, I'll just talk about the recent project. We went to a bushfire affected community, Oakdale, and there was a lot of fundraising done for the bushfires, but not much of it actually went to the people. So we were thinking, how are we going to connect with the people, show them we haven't forgotten about them with the mess of COVID and everything, and give something back and bring people together. So we rolled in with our amazing team of volunteers, and this 21-metre mural, and painted the outline of a message called Grow Together. And we invited people from surrounding communities, and people came from as far as Sydney. So the people from the city were coming to this little town that they'd never heard of, generating local economy and all of that. And it was across the road from a primary school, done on school holidays. So we just got a range of people with no experience in art to come and put their hand on the wall and make a tangible impact on a community, and really work together and generate hopeful conversations. And then we fundraised a bunch of money for the local women's shelter. So
So is that a part of, often do you try and fundraise alongside the workshop, and then you choose a charity to give to?
So it's all about locally relevant but globally scalable issues. So locally, people are still living in tents, they're still rebuilding their houses. Locally it's a very big issue. But globally we can all relate to being displaced at some time. Personally, I've had that in my childhood, and so to be able to provide a safe place for women and children to sleep at night, amongst all of the other issues that happen in rural towns.
Cool.
Show a message, connect, come together, find a solution together, and boost the economy. It's like
it sounds
a
great.
dream.
It sounds like sounds like a good place to be. And I guess I suppose we should head over to brunch soon. But I thought before we go over, I appreciate that you all come from very different backgrounds, and some of you might have a business, some of you might just be starting to grow some food, you might just be tipping your toes into like, what is sustainability, what does this mean for me? But I would love if you guys could each share, I suppose, what we all run against challenges in that journey, whatever that might be, whether it's business or personal. I guess I'd love to hear if you have any words of encouragement or advice for people who are at a crossroads, I guess, or have a challenge in their journey with living more purpose-filled or living more consciously. Because it's all nice and good to say like, we're doing this and we're doing that, but I'm sure there's been heaps of challenge for you guys in your journey with going plastic free, or introducing the waste system, and even being mums, running a business. So I guess any kind of personal tips or business tips about kind of overcoming those challenges, or to keep going.
Do you want to start?
I know that's a hard question, sorry.
I think we've been fairly steadfast in wanting to make a change and not really taking no for an answer. So you will often come up against roadblocks, and that's happened a lot in the 12 years that we've been in business, but it's kind of about there is always an alternate way or a way to work around things, and it's about doing what you think is right, I think, and leading by example. So by us making a change at the event, the flow on has been that everyone's more aware about where their waste goes and what they're actually consuming and using. So I think it's really about just sticking to your guns a lot.
Yeah. And I think we have always, we're quite heart-led really, aren't we? So I think we just started something that we were really passionate about, and then I guess just by going about our business, doing what we really love, hopefully that it just in itself, you know, shows other people that, you know, they can do it too. Or, and I think, as mums, you know, we're quite passionate about a better future for our kids, whether that's culturally or environmentally, or all of it, you know. So if we can just make small steps and chip away and, just be passionate about what we're doing, then hopefully that helps.
I think being heart-led is kind of one of the main things, because you can't keep going with a project for superficial reasons. In my experience, there's too many challenges. It has to come from really like a deep passion, like of non-negotiables, I suppose. Well, that's been my experience. It's cool hearing that that's kind of the same for you guys.
We've always been more like, just, you know, let's start, and then, okay, and then, so we,
And
anyway.
Montana, did you have any hot tips about...
I think for me, it's the world in general, not just the world of sustainability, became a lot clearer once I understood who I was and what mattered to me. So once I understood my values, understanding where to shop, what to shop for, what to eat, all of those things became a lot easier. It's like, okay, do I think people's lives are important? Yes, maybe a $3 shirt is questionable. I wouldn't make a shirt for $3. So understanding your values is a really, really big part of leading a purpose-driven life and ultimately more sustainable. And sustainability is the key to freedom. You guys have complete freedom here. You have your own food. The world goes to cactus. You've got your food. You're living in synergy with the land. You understand what the weather's doing. You're connected to your community. You've got real tangible impact on the earth, and it's freedom. Everybody deserves that.
And Jake?
I think it's probably a summary of what the three girls said, is like, if you do want to have a positive impact or make changes, it's not about being perfect, it's progress, and kind of like those small positive steps over a period of time like relate to massive change. And you know, when you start following a life of somewhat purpose, and you bring the people around you with you, and it's something to be really proud of. And you know, no small positive thing that you do is too small. So just be proud, and it's a journey. And just you get choices all the time as a consumer. It's just trying to make as many positive ones as possible.
Cool. I'd love to keep chatting. I know you were up in the Daintree recently with Jimmy Halfcut. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you guys were doing up there?
Yeah, so one thing, last year we donated a lot of money, but we were kind of just getting to the end of the month and going, okay, who do we want to donate to? And that was basically it, because we're members of 1% for the Planet. We, you know, everyone, all the charities are doing amazing work, but we felt like we were sitting in an office and not getting involved with much ourselves. So we kind of made a commitment this year to focus on ocean conservation and reforestation, and as a bit of a team conservation retreat, we were able to go up to the Daintree and work with Halfcut and an organisation called Rainforest 4, and witnessed probably one of the most amazing experiences of my life, where these charities were raising money to buy back land that was for sale, that could have been deforested or turned into farming or housing developments. And these organisations were buying them back and then giving them back to the traditional custodians with no questions asked. They had no expectations of what they were going to do with it, just this was your land, we're giving it back to you. So that was a really, really special experience for our team, and we also got involved in some tree planting and headed over to Fitzroy Island, where we did a beach clean with Sea Shepherd and met up with some local conservation groups that were doing reef forestation, so like trying to replenish the reef that was lost to the bleaching, and just kind of like making ourselves aware of all the amazing things that are happening and give you a bit of confidence that the world is going to go in a better direction than sometimes it feels. So I think Harry down the back, my younger brother to some people who but yeah, it was like a really amazing kind of experience for us, and we took our, we got some amazing content, so we got our community and customers to come on board with us, and to see, they bought some bowls, so we're like, we're planting this tree on behalf of you, Laura from California, who bought this bowl back in March, and it was just like really good experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. Cool. Well, I think everyone's probably pretty hungry by now. So we've got a beautiful brunch set up in our yurt, which is across the field. So if you do have any questions, during the brunch, I'd really love for you guys to, there are seats down and your name's down, but feel free to hop up, chat, mingle, introduce yourself to someone that you don't know or you want to ask a question to, and just really, I guess, make the most of this community experience. So that's the panel over. So thank you for the
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for coming, and we'll just get you, do you want to follow, Ella, do you want to follow the lead, the march to the yurt? Yeah.